Let's get right into it. Number 10, the immediate pain. Imagine telling the truth in a room where lying would have made everything smoother. Someone asks, "Did you like it?" And instead of performing social gymnastics, you say, "Not really." Boom, atmosphere shifts, faces tighten, you can almost hear the background music change. Here's the problem. Honesty is short-term painful, and humans, we are allergic to short-term pain. Your brain is basically a microwave addict. It wants comfort now, validation now, harmony now, not healthy long-term trust after 3 awkward conversations. When you're honest, especially in competitive environments, jobs, relationships, social circles, you create friction, you expose flaws, you disrupt the fantasy. And people hate having their fantasy interrupted. Psychologically, this hits something called cognitive dissonance. That's when someone believes they're amazing, competent, or morally superior, and you politely introduce evidence. Their brain doesn't go, "Thank you for the growth opportunity." It goes, "Threat detected." So what happens? The liar who says, "Everything's great," gets rewarded, smiles, promotions, fewer enemies. Meanwhile you, the honest one, get labeled too blunt, too intense, or the classic corporate insult, "Not a team player." But here's the twist. You're not actually losing, you're just paying up front. Honesty charges an emotional entrance fee, lies offer free entry but bill you later with interest. The honest person feels the sting immediately, the liar feels it slowly, like a subscription service to chaos. Basically, honesty is the uncomfortable gym membership of social behavior. It hurts now, but skipping it turns your life into emotional fast food. Number 9, the social game. Life is not just about truth, it's about optics. And optics? Optics are undefeated. Imagine 2 coworkers. One does decent work and constantly talks about it, the other does excellent work and assumes results speak for themselves. Guess who gets noticed? Humans are not truth-detecting machines, we are storytelling addicts. We don't reward what's most accurate, we reward what feels most impressive. There's something called impression management. It's the art of controlling how others perceive you. Some people play it like chess. Honest people often refuse to play at all. You might think, if I just work hard and tell the truth, it'll sort itself out. That's adorable. The workplace, social groups, even friend circles operate like subtle theater productions. The people who win understand the script. They know when to exaggerate, when to stay vague, when to strategically withhold information. Meanwhile, the honest person walks in like, "Here are the raw facts." Raw facts don't trend. Drama trends, confidence trends, carefully edited versions of reality trend. This doesn't mean you should become a professional manipulator, but it does explain why honest people sometimes feel invisible. They're bringing spreadsheets to a talent show. And in a world that rewards performance, the person refusing to perform often looks like they're losing. But here's the quiet truth. Games reward players. Reality rewards builders. It just takes longer. Number 8, the delayed reward. There's a psychological phenomenon called delayed gratification. It's why saving money beats impulse shopping, why studying beats scrolling, why vegetables exist. Honesty works the same way. When you tell the truth consistently, you're building something invisible at first, reputation. But reputation grows slowly, painfully slowly, like a plant that doesn't show above the soil for months. Meanwhile, the dishonest person seems to sprint ahead. They charm, they flatter, they promise things they might never deliver. And it works, because humans love hope more than accuracy. Your brain loves immediate validation. Dopamine doesn't care if the praise is built on lies, it just wants the hit. So when you see someone bending the truth and winning instantly, your nervous system goes, "Wait, are we doing this wrong?" No, you're just investing long-term in a world obsessed with short-term. Trust compounds. It's like interest, quiet at first, then powerful. The honest person might lose quick opportunities, shortcuts, manipulative leverage, easy praise, but over time, people begin to notice patterns. They realize, when this person speaks, it's solid. And that is rare. Honesty is slow currency. It doesn't flash, it doesn't explode, it accumulates. But yes, in the early rounds, it absolutely looks like you're losing. That's because you're planting trees while everyone else is setting off fireworks. And fireworks get applause, trees get shade, later. Number 7, the emotional cost. Here's something no one tells you. Honesty is emotionally exhausting. Because being honest often means confronting conflict instead of avoiding it. Most humans are wired for social belonging. Thousands of years ago, getting rejected by your tribe meant, death. So your brain still treats social tension like a life-threatening event. When you say something truthful but uncomfortable, your nervous system lights up, heart rate increases, palms sweat, your brain screams, "Abort mission!" Meanwhile, the person who lies to keep peace, smooth sailing, no confrontation, no raised eyebrows, no awkward silence, This is why white lies exist. They're social lubricant, they reduce friction, they keep dinner pleasant. Honest people remove the lubricant, and friction makes noise. Psychologically, this connects to agreeableness, one of the big 5 personality traits. Highly agreeable people avoid conflict to maintain harmony. Honest people who are low in social filtering, they disrupt harmony in favor of accuracy. And accuracy is not always socially rewarded. So yes, you may lose arguments, you may lose popularity contests, you may even lose relationships that were only stable because they were built on illusion. But here's the punchline. If truth breaks it, it wasn't stable. Honesty doesn't destroy strong connections, it exposes weak ones. Which is painful. But losing something fake is not the same as losing something real. Your honesty isn't making you lose. It's just speeding up reality. Number 6, the threat factor. Truth is threatening. Not because it's loud, but because it's precise. When you're honest, you're holding up a mirror, and most people say they want self-awareness until it arrives unfiltered. There's something called ego defense mechanisms. Your brain protects your identity like it's a fragile antique vase. When someone points out a flaw, even gently, it feels like an attack. So what happens to the honest person? They become intimidating, or negative, or too much. Translation, you make me uncomfortable because you disrupt my self-image. In competitive spaces especially, honesty can be dangerous. If you point out inefficiency, corruption, or mistakes, you threaten power structures, and power does not reward threats. It eliminates them. So sometimes the honest person loses not because they're wrong, but because they're inconvenient. And inconvenience is rarely promoted. But here's the deeper truth. Honesty filters environments. If truth consistently gets you punished in a space, that space runs on illusion, and illusions eventually collapse. The honest person might get pushed out early, but they also avoid being buried under the collapse later. Basically, honesty is like being the only sober person at a party. You notice everything, you say what's real. And for a while nobody likes you. Until the morning after. Number 5, the loneliness effect. There's a weird side effect of being honest. Sometimes you end up alone in rooms full of people. Not physically alone, socially alone. Because when everyone is nodding along to something that makes no sense, and you're the only one who says, wait, that's not accurate, you just volunteered as tribute. Humans bond over shared beliefs, not shared accuracy. If a group collectively agrees that the emperor's outfit is stunning, and you're the one squinting like, isn't he naked? Congratulations, you're now the vibe killer. Psychologically, this ties into group conformity. Think of experiments like the classic line judgment studies by Solomon Asch. People knowingly gave wrong answers just to fit in, because belonging often feels more important than being right. Honest people refuse that trade. And when you don't bend to group illusions, the group subtly distances you, not always aggressively. Sometimes it's quiet. Fewer invitations, less enthusiasm, you become intense. The irony? Later, when everything falls apart, they'll say, you were right. But in the moment, you're inconvenient. Honesty doesn't always isolate you forever. It isolates you temporarily from people who depend on denial. And yes, that feels like losing. But fitting into a delusion is not winning, it's just synchronized pretending. Number 4, the manipulation gap. Here's an uncomfortable reality. Dishonest people often understand human psychology better. Not morally better, strategically better. They study reactions, they test boundaries, they know which emotions to trigger: fear, guilt, admiration, sympathy. They play them like instruments. Meanwhile, the honest person assumes everyone is operating on the same transparency setting. That assumption is adorable and dangerous. There's a concept in behavioral science called the dark triad, traits like narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, not cartoon villain levels, just enough charm and calculation to bend situations. People high in these traits are often socially successful in competitive environments. They're comfortable saying what works, not what's true. You, on the other hand, are out here saying what's true, hoping it works. See the gap? Manipulators optimize for outcomes, honest people optimize for integrity. And in short-term competitions, outcomes usually win. But here's the twist. Manipulation requires maintenance, lies stack, stories must align, performances must continue. Honesty, low maintenance. You don't have to remember what you said last week. So yes, manipulators may climb faster, but they're climbing on scaffolding made of spaghetti. Eventually, gravity participates. Number 3, the expectation trap. Once people know you're honest, they expect you to always be honest. No exaggerations, no emotional filtering, no strategic silence. You become the moral Wi-Fi router, always connected, always transmitting truth. And that's exhausting. The liar gets flexibility. They can pivot, adjust, rebrand. You? One small inconsistency and suddenly it's, I thought you were honest. There's a psychological bias called the halo effect. When someone has one strong trait, people assume consistency across everything. If you're labeled the honest one, you're held to a higher standard. Which sounds noble, until you realize it means zero margin for error. Make one mistake and it feels like betrayal. Meanwhile, the person known for bending reality, nobody is shocked when they do it again. Ironically, honesty raises the bar so high that even normal human imperfections look like hypocrisy. So sometimes honest people feel like they lose because they're under a microscope while everyone else is casually winging it in the dark. But here's the reality. Being expected to be honest is not a curse. It's proof that your baseline is trusted. That's not losing. That's reputation pressure. And pressure only shows up when something valuable is at stake. Number 2, the short-term sacrifice. Imagine you're offered an opportunity. All you have to do is slightly misrepresent something, not a full lie, just strategic ambiguity. Nobody would know. You'd get ahead, fast. Honest people hesitate. That hesitation costs them. Opportunities disappear, promotions go elsewhere, social advantages slip away. Because honesty isn't just about telling the truth, it's about refusing shortcuts. And shortcuts are seductive. Your brain is wired for reward, immediate reward. It doesn't naturally care about moral alignment. That's the prefrontal cortex working overtime, basically acting like a strict parent while your impulses throw a party. So when you consistently choose integrity over advantage, you're choosing long-term identity over short-term gain. And in a fast-moving world, that looks like slowness. But here's the deeper layer. When you build success on dishonesty, your nervous system never fully relaxes. There's always the subtle fear of exposure, of being found out, of the mask slipping. Honest people sleep differently. They might have fewer trophies early on, but they don't wake up rehearsing excuses. And peace of mind, that's an invisible win nobody claps for. Number 1, the long game. Picture 2 runners. One sprints at full speed the moment the race begins, arms flailing, crowd cheering, absolute cinematic energy. The other jogs, calm, steady, almost boring. For the first few laps, it looks obvious who's winning. That's honesty versus deception. In the short term, bending reality is powerful. It accelerates trust artificially. It creates momentum. It opens doors that might otherwise stay closed. Humans are wired to respond to confidence and certainty, not necessarily accuracy. If someone sounds sure enough, we often follow. There's a reason charismatic figures rise quickly. Confidence feels like competence, and sometimes the two overlap, but not always. Meanwhile, the honest person doesn't inflate, doesn't oversell, doesn't manufacture certainty when they don't have it. They say, I don't know. They admit mistakes. They refuse to exaggerate. And that doesn't trend. But here's the psychological shift that changes everything. Trust erosion is exponential. Once someone is caught lying, even once, the brain reclassifies them. Every future statement gets filtered. Suspicion replaces assumption. Doubt becomes the background music. Trust, once cracked, never quite returns to factory settings. Honesty builds slowly, but it builds deep. Over time, people begin to associate you with reliability. Your words weigh more. When you speak, people lean in because they know you're not performing. That's influence without theatrics. The liar may win rounds. The honest person wins decades. Because eventually, patterns reveal themselves, reality audits everyone, reputations solidify, and when things get serious, when stakes rise and illusions fall, people look for the steady one. Consistency beats spectacle. Every time. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.